Welcome my people, new video from sieteonline.com. Today I am recording this video which is December 1919. Sorry, 2002, 10/24 and well, low. The objective of this video is to tell you a little about my naturalization process for those who follow me who didn't know. I am in France and I have been here since 2016. And only in 2023 I was interested in starting my naturalization or citizenship process to have my two French documents. Obviously I have my documents, I have what here is called a tick of that I, which would be something like a permanent residence, which obviously indicates that I have the right to live here in France and I have to renew the chain number of years. So that's the goal of having permanent residence now. I live here, I work here, everything is like this. So I was interested in changing my status, which will allow me not only to have a European passport, will also allow me to have a French national identity. And that opens the doors for me to all the countries of Europe and to other countries such as the United States, where perhaps sometimes the requirements are they are very high for us, Dominican citizens, and having a European passport then gives me a possibility of entering the United States, something I have never done. I was interested in doing it in the past, but no longer that recipe. The topic here is the next one, and we are now going to talk about my naturalization process. I'm going to talk to you, I'm going to use my phone because obviously I don't remember everything by heart. And what I'm going to share with you first is what the requirements are for the requirements. I'm going to ask Chili PT because I have already asked him before, but I don't have it in memory. Here I am going to ask you what the requirements are to apply. To naturalization in France, by marriage, it is important to define what is by marriage because the process can be easier or less easy, more difficult, depending on whether it is by naturalization or if it is by work, if it is by students, that type of thing, all this can change. And that is why it is good to specify at this time to chat and PT what it is by naturalization then. The first thing is that you must have a valid and registered marriage. My marriage was registered in the Dominican Republic, then we registered it here in Europe. It must be legal and registered according to French laws. The spouse must be French. My wife is French and must be a citizen at the time of marriage and retain French nationality. The duration of the marriage must have passed at least 4 years. I married my wife in 2014 and we have too much time. We have already been married for 10 years and obviously we had never thought about that, and that is why we decided to do it now in 2023, not before. If the couple has not lived together continuously in France since marriage, the period increases to 5 years. That's good to know because I got married in the Dominican Republic and here in France our marriage was declared, if I'm not mistaken, about 6 years ago. So I have 8 living here. It was about 6 years ago that it was registered here in France, but it still has the same validity. We are within the requirements, motivational life and coexistence. You must demonstrate a stable and married life, continuous knowledge of the French language, have at least a moral and written exam to give them a small explanation. In my French exam, I started it in 2022. Oral exam and written exam, and then what does the written one pass? They gave me the oral exam and at the beginning of 2023 I already had my diploma. Do you see one for French? They gave me those tests at the university here in France. And then with the passage of time, a few months later I received the certificate, obviously saying that I passed my French course. It came to me in the mail, first email and then physical mail. We have to demonstrate the integration of French society, know the values of France, this kind of thing. Additional, that is the part that could interest some the most, translated legalized marriage certificate, and in the case of us, the Dominicans, apostille important here because the marriage certificate and my birth certificate of my partner and my parents, the proof of my residence, which I obviously had, and the documents that demonstrate knowledge of the language, integration into society, that is the document that I just told you about the language and all that then with respect to the marriage certificate and the certificates of of the births. The birth certificate did not give accuracy about my father's place of birth, so I had to request a birth certificate from my father to validate not only that he was my father, but that the record of my father's information in my birth certificate was correct, was real, and on top of that I had to apostille it, and when you apostille it, you pay a tax to the Dominican state so that your document is valid here in France, and at the same time this document, those documents from the Dominican Republic, has to translated by a notary who sends you the original document and also documents a digital copy of the document with a seal, and this is what validates that the documents can be used to request nationality or naturalization by marriage. Does the important absence of criminal precedents in the Dominican Republic allow you to get your background, your certificate of no criminal record through the website? You pay a tax, you begin the process, then you receive a 111 notification format to PDF format that you can print it, and that will be your certificate. And to request is to prepare your file, request to the prefecture here in France, and in my case, that you do reside. Well, in the event that a person resides abroad and is starting, this process is done through the French consulate, although I already did it living here with me, with my residence card. So he says that there may be exceptions, among other things, consolidating the file, preparing all the documents, and at the same time starting the process. It is not difficult since you have all these requirements. Only you are going to create the EL to start the process and pass. Two things that are to us. H, things that give you to understand that the process is on the right track. The first is information through the application via email that the process is already underway. And well, having your messaging always active for that kind of thing. And the second thing that happens is that I don't know why it is. I look as if I were out of focus. Or the second thing that happens is that the police are going to come and do one in that of Wasinac, which is an investigation of with the neighbors to know if you are a good person. If it's a person, let's say it doesn't cause any kind of problem here in France, that you're respecting the life. Let's say this, of the people that are around you, they come. It is ensured that you live in a marital home. They make sure that, in my case, that my wife lives here, because when they came and I was alone, they make sure that if you have daughters, that you have them. Toys that you have, toothbrushes, shampoos and things, very typical of women, brushes, combs, women's clothes, that kind of thing, it comes. There were 3 cops who came here to my house and made sure of all that, and after this, about 2 months after a call to go to the prefecture here in Grenoble, the prefecture of Grenoble, to do an interview in the interview for, of course, a natural interview, a realization by marriage. It's good to clarify this because I was going with the idea that I had to not only learn French, I was going with the idea that I had to be, not only with the idea that I had to know French, but with the idea that I had to know countless things about French culture, French history, the main characters, the most relevant events in history, the symbols, all that kind of things. I knew about her from knowledge of general culture, and I learned some of those things because they summoned me exactly 1 month. If I'm not mistaken, I had exactly 1 month to prepare for all this. And on the day of the interview, from the outset, the person who was going to interview me, who was a very pleasant person, tells me that in this interview, the only thing that was going to be talked about was personal issues, and that it wasn't even going to be talked about. No history of French culture, none of this. He told me, he gave me 2 documents. One in case I divorce my wife and another in case I move, thank God. Neither is going to happen. Yes, I have those 2 documents there, but I don't think I will. I will use them. And the first 15 minutes of the interview will be to give an explanation of what the interview was going to be like. Then they interviewed me, separated me separately, and then separately interviewed my wife regarding the questions they asked me in a way. separate. This has been the entire process. This has been the entire process until the day of the interview in 1 second video, because this is already a little long in 1 second video. I'm going to explain to you. I'm going to explain to you exactly what they were. I'm going to tell you what all those questions were and how I handled myself. Or my wife and I handled each other during the interview. So this video is going to be from the initiation process to the explanation of the initiation process until the day of the interview. So I hope it has served video. If you like the video, like, share. Don't forget to subscribe. Until next time.